Hosey.
Thank you very much, Mr Hosey. It's a pleasure to contribute to this debate under your chairmanship and to congratulate the Right Honourable Member for Chingford and Woodford Green for securing the debate and for his outspokenness on this and the work that he's done in relation to the Treasury and trying to achieve a solution there. And also to have the member for Islington North, who has got a record going back to the 1970s in Haringey as a local authority councillor and known for his work in the area of recycling, cycling and generally standing up for a more sustainable planet. So, of course, as well, to have the chair of the all-party group for air quality here talking about his outstanding work, not just in Swansea West, but really responding to the challenge which COP26 has given us to be calling for us to be a bit more ambitious and a bit more brave when it comes to the question of an incinerator. It does feel like old technology, and that's why I'm very pleased that Haringey Borough was the only borough which did vote to pause and review when it came to the vote on the bid for this particular scheme. And I wanted briefly to just put on record all of us across the House, our memory of the 7-year-old Ella Kissa-Debry, who tragically died, it has been found subsequently, from air pollution poisoning. Her mother, Rosamond, who's spoken in this House in the past on Health and Safety Day, and has spoken powerfully on the way that she took Ella's case to the coroner to have the whole way that she passed away looked at. And indeed, it was found that she was the first person to have been found formally in the UK to have passed away from air pollution, and that was put on her death certificate posthumously. I wanted also briefly to put on record that we're all aware in this House that air pollution doesn't affect all of us equally, but that in particular pregnant women, babies and children, older people, people with lung conditions and those living in the poorest areas and in ethnically diverse communities are particularly at risk. And I would just mention the work that the member for Edmonton has done in her role as a health professional before coming into this House, and also my Haringey colleague, the member for Tottenham, who has also led on a number of issues on ethnically diverse communities and their exposure in particular to pollution and to the high numbers of our constituents who do suffer from lung conditions. We know that 88% of people with a lung condition are affected by air pollution, and that 58% of people with asthma have their condition triggered by air pollution. And that is the kind of context that we're having the debate in today. Now, when the plans were first signed off, when the member for Uxbridge and South Ruislip was the Mayor of London, this felt like a solution that might have been okay, but that was quite a long time ago now, and things have moved on since. It feels as though this project hasn't had the COP26 test applied to it, and I feel that now would be a good time for the government to look again and to challenge whether there is more that can be done, particularly with the introduction of these green bonds. First of all, to explain exactly how they work, because there doesn't seem to be a proper explanation for how they work, but also to see how this project could possibly introduce some best practice around the green agenda. We are in a climate emergency, and our constituents want to see change. They want to recycle more, they want our polluted air to be cleaner, and they're anxious that the size of the incinerator will mean there's an incentive to produce more waste in order to feed the associated district energy network. They're concerned about the environmental impact of incineration and the emissions that that process creates, and want to see 21st century solutions to the management of wastes that do not harm the health of residents or our environment. Now, our constituents know that it's the poorest areas that pay the heaviest price, and there's real disappointment that the request for a pause and review was unsuccessful and that the contract has now been awarded. But it's vital that the design properly recognises the advances we all expect to see in carbon capture and storage, so it's ready and equipped to take full advantage of them. Haringey's council leader has urged the North London Waste Authority to bring forward the carbon capture and storage element of the plant, so it's operational as soon as possible to reduce CO2 emissions, and I fully support her in this goal. It's important to say that local authorities who have had up to 50% cuts to their budget It's a very difficult place to be innovative when you're facing 50% cuts to your budget as a local authority. And collectively, these 8 local authorities have been cut back enormously since 2010. With a government that's failed to fund them properly for the last 11 years and failed to be ambitious in its approach to waste, I urge the government, working with the North London Waste Authority, and to work with our communities to radically increase recycling levels to meet and beat the Mayor of London's target of 50% by 2030. And on the question of the other measures which the Mayor of London has introduced around the congestion charge, expanding that, the ULEZ, these are all painful measures for many of London's motorists, and yet it seems to be this particular project which could actually be making a very big difference with one installation. So I think that is a pity that we haven't looked at the impact of this particular project on that desire to get our air cleaner. It's vital in recognising the environmental and health impacts of incineration, but also important we don't simply push the problem out of London by transporting the capital's waste to other parts of the UK or overseas. And as other members have mentioned in the debate, it would be unenviable to see waste from other parts of London actually coming back to London because there's capacity in this incinerator. Not only bad for the environment, but also socially unjust. Mr. Hosey, I will conclude there, and just to say that we all in this House care deeply about cleaner air, about the new information that we have about the impact on asthma sufferers and others with lung conditions of poor air pollution. And I do hope that between the Shadow Minister and the Minister, they will work belatedly to ensure that this can be the best possible outcome for our North London constituents.